What's up guys, and welcome back to another EVE Online video. Today we're finishing off the series on how to do all of the PI required for fuel block production on a single character. So this is, I think, the third or fourth video in the series. If you want to understand how to get set up on the extraction planets, then make sure you check out the earlier videos, which I'll put a couple of links to throughout. First one will be up in the top right now. But basically, as expected, the purpose of this is to be able to do everything you need for PI on a everything you need for fuel blocks from PI on a single character. So this is going to be probably quite a long video. We'll try and get it as short as possible, but basically I'm just going to go through the full setup and then talk about how we've got the final production set up on each planet. So I've been running the original setup, the extraction planets, for a couple of weeks now, just so I've got a bit of a stockpile going. And I have set up the manufacturing planets. But let's just get going while we do this. I'm going to wait the 9 seconds for this to finish before I reset it. 2, 1. Okay, let's reset that. Transfer this to there. And then launch. We'll come pick up some precious metals. So yeah, I've been stockpiling a little bit here. But basically, what do you need for, while we do this, let's have a look at what you need for fuel block PI. It's the same for any of the 4 fuel blocks. So we can just open up any one of these. And this is, if you open up the blueprint information and just hit required input materials, you can see the PI that's needed down there. Just reset this one, stop start. And basically, you can see we need 1 robotics, which is the tier 3 material, and then enriched uranium, mechanical parts, and coolant are all tier 2 materials, and oxygen is a tier 1. So the oxygen we're less worried about for now. But let's have a look at what we need for robotics.
Warp drive active.
Go into it and you can see the inputs. In this case it's consumer electronics and mechanical parts. And then if you go into them, you can see the tier 1s required. And you can also see the amount of each being produced and the input required for each. So I've been trying to come up with a setup that keeps it vaguely balanced. So if I'm producing 1 robotics, can I get roughly 9 or 4 mechanical parts in that process, for example? And as you can see, if you just have 1 robotics factory, you actually get 3 robotics per hour. So if I'm getting 3 robotics per hour, I need 27 coolant per hour, or 12 mechanical parts and 12 enriched uranium per hour. So that's what I've been trying to do in my setup, and it actually proved to be a little bit more challenging than I initially thought. But I'll go into that in a little bit. But this is how we have established everything that's going on to our individual extraction planets, and also to do with the amount of volume of each material required. So what I've had to do to get set up is, if you're going to do this all on 1 character, you can have some pure extraction planets on tier 1, just have them like this one, where you've just got 1 extractor pulling out 1 type of material, turning it into tier 1 and moving on. But then I've got a couple of other planets like this one, where I've got 2 different setups. Let me close that again. I've got 2 different setups on the same planet. So 1 extraction facility here, and then if we go up here somewhere, a 2nd extraction facility. And now I've tried to make sure that obviously there's some limitations here. You can only do that for materials that are available on the same planet type, for one. So from here I am getting toxic metals and probably chiral structures, because they are both available on lava. And similarly on my other planet, I'm getting water and electrolytes from a temperate planet, sorry, a storm planet. I wouldn't be able to get electrolytes and say precious metals from the same planet because they need different types. So that's one limitation, but then it's also trying to balance. I need more of some materials than others, so the materials I need the most of are coming from their own planets, whereas the materials I need less of are coming from these the dual extraction planets. At least that's the plan. So let's carry on. Just dropped off 2. If you want to make this more efficient for yourself, make sure your Coolant industrial skills are sufficiently high, because Coolant industrial affects the size of the planetary commodity hold. Mine are very low on this character, so I probably will increase them in due course. So start that one, and then come up here. Start. By the way, if you, as mentioned earlier in the series, I covered how to do the setup like this. I'll link it in the top corner for how to do 2 tier 1 extraction facilities on one planet. Let's submit that, and then we need to launch the materials. So launch. Where's the other one gone again? Launch. Then we can pick them up and move on to the next one. And then same again here. Again, these are duplicated. These are 2 start. And my other one is this direction this time. Over here. Start. Submit. And let's launch it up. You can see you can use your customs offices as storage. So I've launched one earlier from here because my launch facility was full, because this one's extracting really quite good volumes. Yeah, I've got enough room, good. So when we land here, let's pick them up. And then I'm just going to go over to my last planet, because I should have space, which is where my oxygen is being collected. I will talk about this thing in a minute. We're just getting the oxygen now. The oxygen is an interesting one because if we go back to fuel block, you saw that you needed 22 oxygen for every 1 robotics. You go 22 oxygen, but oxygen is tier 1. So if you need, if we're getting 3 robotics an hour, we need 66 oxygen an hour. We've got 43,000. You really, if you're gonna do this like properly, efficiently, you literally just need 1 extractor head. But I can use the oxygen for my other setup, so which is why I've done it this way around. And basically it's just using up what's left of the power grid to be able to do this. Right. Now while we walk back, let's go into a bit of detail about the extraction. So this is all the tier 1 extraction so far. It's across 5 planets, because we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tier 1 materials. So we use 5 planets, and we've doubled up extraction on 2 of them. And that gives us everything we need now to do our actual assembly. And the way I like to do it is to have dedicated extraction planets, as you can see here, and then try and have dedicated manufacturing planets. Now, there is of course a limit. I've got this maxed out on upgrades, which is important. If you're going to do it in this way, you will need the skill to have command center upgrades to 5. If I go to planet management, you need command center upgrades 5, and you will need interplanetary consolidation 5. They are important for this setup. But command center upgrade 5 allows me to, once we finish docking, have, this setup. Now, excuse the red. This is because my input materials are missing currently, because this is the first time I'm routing the input materials. I thought could probably do that together. So that's all of our tier 1s. Okay. Now what have I got going on here? This top one is where we are building our robotics. And I had enough power grid to set up 2 robotics facilities. Now these are tier 3, so you just need advanced industry facilities to do this, which are these ones. These are what allow you to do tier 2 or tier 3 products. Basic is just tier 1. So all of the facilities you see here are advanced, because they allow you to do tier 2 and tier 3. We don't need high tech, which is a good thing, because high tech production plants can only be put onto barren and I think temperate planets. They're limited, whereas the advanced can go anywhere. So as I say, all of these are advanced. So these are the first ones with producing tier 3, and we can see we need mechanical parts and consumer electronics going into this, which are tier 2. So if I've got 2 of these, I need 20 mechanical parts per hour for both of these to run. Same for consumer electronics. So the tier 2 advanced industry facilities outputs 5 of the tier 2 per hour. You can see that there. 1 hour cycle time, output per cycle 5. So if I need 20, then I need 4 facilities of each. So all 4 of these are going to produce mechanical parts, and all 4 of these are going to produce consumer electronics. So we've also got all the routing set up already, which you can see here as well. The mechanical parts are basically everything is being controlled by the launch pad. So the robotics are routing out into the launch pad, and we've got 2 sets of consumer electronics and 2 sets of mechanical parts coming in for each of these. And you can actually, one of the nice things about the links is you can see, if you hover over, it highlights in orange where everything's going. So the outputs, the consumer electronics being produced here, are going all the way through to here, similarly like that, and then these ones are going up. So that's how we're producing our robotics, and it's going to give us 6 per hour. But in order to run this, say we want to run this for 24 hours, we need each one of these to be running full time. They require 40 of each tier 1 material per hour again. So let's bring the calculator over just real quick. We need 40 per hour, and we want to run it for a day. So each one of these facilities requires 960 of its input materials, and we have 4 of each input material, right? So reactive metals are needed in these 4, precious metals are needed in these 4. So we need 3,840 of each input material to get this running nicely. So I'm going to do that now. We're going to get set up with the robotics and get it all positioned nicely in here and put it in my planetary commodities hold. So we need reactive and precious, 3,840 of each. 3,840 precious, 3,840 did work, good. So that will fill those for 24 hours, and then on this side here we've got toxic and chiral structures. So toxic, chiral structures, and that will allow us to run that now for 24 hours when we go and drop those materials off. Worth mentioning, and we'll keep an eye on this as we go, that's only 2,920 units. the storage facility can hold up to 10,000. So we could run this for 3 days if we have enough space and it works with the other stuff. We could go and drop off 3 days worth of material for this and then not come back for 3 days, and it would just be producing robotics that whole time. Just because, right, so say call this 3,000, we could drop off 9,000's worth of material and it would run 3 days. So that's the robotics. That's everything we need to build robotics for 24 hours is just there, which is really nice. We'll go and do the routing in a minute. Now down here, we are doing the independent mechanical parts production. So you will have noticed that we are producing mechanical parts for robotics, but we also need mechanical parts on their own merit as well for every robotics we have, and we need 4 of them, and same for enriched uranium. So that's what's happening down here. So if we're producing 6 robotics per hour, we want 24, 6 times 4, 24 mechanical parts and enriched uranium per hour. We know these produce 5 per cycle, so I have 5 set up around one launch facility. And the same for the enriched uranium over here. So we'll be producing 25 per hour of each, which will give us 1 surplus, but there's nothing you can do about that. And so basically we'll do the same thing as we did up here for robotics. We just need to make sure we're running each of these for 24 hours, which will just be the 40 times number of hours times the number of facilities. In this case is 5. So 4,800 of each of the input materials. So let's do it again. Reactive and precious. We need 4,800 this time. It was precious, not toxic. And for enriched uranium, it is toxic and precious. So you can already see, like precious materials, we need a lot of them. They need their own planet, and they have their own planet. Precious materials are being produced on their own. Similarly, reactive and toxic, we need more than everything else, so reactive is on its own planet as well. And then, last but not least, do I still have this in here? No. Once we get the routing set up, we have Coolant. Coolant is also Tech 2, so we need more than double the amount of coolant to mechanical parts and enriched uranium. So again, if we're producing 6 robotics, we'll need 54 coolant. My maths was weak there. We need 54 coolant, so we need 11 facilities. Now, obviously I wanted to do all this on one planet, but it wasn't possible. Even if I thinned this down to just 1 robotics production, it wasn't possible. So what I've got here are just 3 for now. You can see here coolant, we've got 3. But then on my oxygen planet, that's what's going on over here. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'm actually missing 1, I think. I did my maths wrong earlier. So what we can do, because we've already mentioned that we don't need this much oxygen, we should be able to kill, let's do 2 of the heads, submit, and put down another advanced facility. Yeah. Link it. And produce coolant. Create the route. So that's 11 coolant facilities. And then same maths, right? So 40 times 24 times 11 this time. So we need 10,560 of each material that we're going to drop in both. So for coolant it is water and electrolytes. Water 10,560, electrolytes 10,560. And so now we should have all the materials we need in here. And we'll undock and take them to our planets and then come back, make ourselves safe and do the routing, just so that we can make sure it's all making sense.
Warp drive active.
So despite there needing to be a lot of water and electrolytes, you do actually still need more precious metals than those because of the number of different times you're having to use precious metals. So it gets its own planet. Right, let's land at the launch pad at the customs office. And this is everything. Oh, that's annoying. Except water and electrolytes. So let's drop them in there. But then we also want 3 of these, because we've got 3 facilities on this planet. So we want 2,880 of each of these. And let's head over to here, where we'll drop off the others, and then we can get everything sorted properly on arrival. I do think what we're going to see is that the command centers can hold a lot more than 1 day's worth. Not command centers, sorry. The launch pads can hold a lot more than 1 day's worth. So in future we'll do more than 1 day. Basically, if you know, obviously, if you're going to do 2 days, you just need to double the amount you're shipping around and dropping off. So let's do that, and then let's head back to the station and make ourselves safe.
Active.
Alright, and while we are heading back there, let's start with the easy one. Let's start with the oxygen and everything. We can just drop them straight down to, you have to make sure it's this launch pad and not that launch pad. How can you tell? They do have names. TX-HQM. TX-HQM. So that's going to the right place and you'll see it drop in. And here we can definitely hit 3 days worth with no problems. And now we need to set up routing. So in our storage, just click each one, electrolytes, create route, and click the facility you need it to go to.
Docking request accepted.
It's a very manual process and is very annoying. So we're now just docking in the background. There we go. We just do this for each element. And then the other planet is a little bit more complicated. So let's get these running. Do water now. You can see the red disappear once the both materials are put in, so that's how you know your facility is ready to work. Red turns yellow. Two more. Storage. Okay. Now when we hit submit, these factories all start working, producing coolant at 5 units an hour. And we've got 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40 being produced per hour on this planet. Now let's go to this one. If you want to control the launch facilities, you have to be outside, and obviously we've docked up. One of the nice things though is if you view outside, so you stay docked, but you view outside of your structure, then you can control everything. So if we go here now, we're in full control of all of this stuff. So again, you need to make sure you've got the right launch pad selected. It's annoying for some reason, but 70 is this one. It works. You can either just select it here and go launch like that, and if you watch it'll adjust which one is selected, or you just select it at the top. We needed 3840 of each of the materials, so there was chiral structures and toxic metals, and there was reactive and precious metals. So that's everything we need in there. Then let's go down to this one, where it is again reactive and precious, but this time it was 4,800. We just click this launch facility, it was reactive and precious, right? Reactive and precious. 4,800. And then over here, select that launch facility, it was toxic and precious. And now I'm also going to put the electrolytes and water in this facility as well for these three elements we've got here. So let's transfer them. Now everything we need is on planet, and we can very much see that we're not anywhere near full on these, so we could go for 2 or 3 days worth of materials, probably 3 days, yeah. So we'll probably do that in future, make it much more passive. And now we've got to go and route everything again, so let's do it starting up here. This is a little bit tedious. I went the wrong way. There we go. If you don't go the correct way, it'll tell you. So if I click over here, it says the schematic I've got loaded doesn't use this ingredient, so why are you clicking over there? So that's one way to know if you're doing things correctly, which is quite nice. Toxic was also this side. This is very much one of the things that would be really nice if there was a way to sort of automate or create a blueprint or something, instead of having to do all of this clicking. You know, like it wouldn't be much work, I don't think, for it to be able to say, okay, I want reactive metals to go to here, 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 done. But instead of having to do all of this tedious clicking every time, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Each one of these, when it could just be like 2. Okay, that's my robotics setup. Everything's working. And then down here, we're just going to do the 5. so close to getting it right. But that's the other thing, a lot of misclicks come in, which gets frustrating when you're trying to click this often. There's another one. Time for some enriched uranium. So I always like my planets to look as neat and symmetrical as I can, which is one of the reasons why I went for three of these instead of any other number. Also, of course, CPU and things, but I think I could have fit a fourth on, but then it wouldn't look kind of like this. Or I also could have just put them all on the oxygen planet and had just the one facility, so that's an option for you as well. But I was a bit scared that I would then waste a little bit of CPU and things, so thought might as well do it this way. And then also, just as one final thing before I route them, you can see that I've got each of these set up to put its final product in this launch pad. But so again, for my own pleasure and symmetry and things, I'm going to send the items from this into these, and then from these into this, which is why I've done it this way around. Let's get those last three going. Then we'll have the very satisfying thing of hitting submit and watching it all turn on. Okay. Everything's white and yellow, and it's running. These won't start yet because they're waiting for the inputs, but after the first hour they'll receive the inputs and it'll run. And so that's everything set up now to run for another 24 hours. I have all of these cycling for another 24 hours, and my two production planets are going to run for 24 hours as well. But yeah, you can see from the how full the launch pads are that we could do 3 days worth instead of 24 hours worth in one go. So it can be a lot more passive than we've just made it look. And also, once the routing is set up, that's the only time you have to do that. The only effort from this point forward is dropping, getting the items out of our inventory and dropping them on the planets. Everything else will be automated. So that's it. We are going to have 6 robotics an hour for 24 hours. $144 robotics, which will allow us to produce 144 fuel blocks at the end of 24 hours. Well, not produce 100, I think it's 144 runs of fuel blocks, because one run produces 40. And if I go 144, there you go. That's got a job duration of more than a day. This is unresearched, of course, but that's more than a day, which means we are producing enough PI to do fuel blocks non-stop, as long as we have access to the ice. But with this setup, you're producing enough PI to do fuel blocks continuously, and pull in 100 million a day if you are doing that. So there it is, guys. That's the end of the series. This one is probably a little bit more rambly and maybe slightly less interesting than I would have hoped, but we'll see. If you enjoyed it and enjoyed the series, please do give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel, where we regularly do sort of industrial stuff. So this is Fuel Block PI, but we do Tech 3 manufacturing. There's a couple of videos on that, alongside just general wormhole life. So yeah, if you did enjoy, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all in the next one. Cheers.